Mm-hmm.
You just got to get comfortable with it, then you can move it to where you want to be.
All right.
Yo, Mike. Yo, Cord. Zello, Eddie. Where's everybody at? Well, guess it's just me today. Hey, man, you know the show must go on. Don't watch me, watch Dynamite TV, man. Guru Dynamite is in the building. And today, on the Big Propaganda Wrestling Podcast, I have a very, 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 very special guest. It's the man, the Cajun Kid.
Oh.
You didn't think I knew
you
that
went
one?
way back. You went way back.
Oh, no, man. You know, man, a real good friend of ours. He does the day-to-day operations at Reality Wrestling, Mr. Kevin Bernhardt.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Hey, what can I say?
All right, man. So let's get started. Like I said, the Cajun Kid.
Man, you went way back.
I want to go. Yeah, I want to dive into that. I really want to dive into that aspect. We're going to go into the wrestler first.
Okay.
How did it all start?
So I started when I was about 13. I was about 13, going on 14. I did martial arts my whole life. Like before that. That's what I was doing. Started when I was in kindergarten, doing a bunch of competitions, things like that. And I'd never been to a wrestling show before. I watched wrestling on TV, but never been to a show before. And there was an indie show, and we were doing a competition, like a demonstration. So we were like break boards, that kind of stuff, and we got to do it inside of a wrestling ring. It was at Mulwood High School. So we go do it, and then during the show, there was two guys one's named Gabe and Alex, who wrestled at Reality Wrestling for a little while back in the day. And I saw them on there. They were like 13 too, and I saw like two kids in the ring. And I was like, wait a minute, kids can do this? Like, this is awesome. So we did our demonstration in the ring. I thought it was the coolest thing. Then afterwards, I went and found the promoter. And was like, hey, how do you do this? And he was like, well, no, his name's Rick Laribus, Mark Von Erich, one of the fake Von Erichs that was out there in the world.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was like, he's like, actually, I'm looking to train a handful of like really young kids. That way, by the time you're like 18, 19, you'll have been in the business for like, for a while. So that's kind of how it started. I ended up, he didn't charge us anything. He used to have a construction company. So we always joked that we were child labor because like we didn't get charged for wrestling school. But on the weekends, we would go and help him with some projects or, you could teach us. To me, it was great because like I learned a skill. Like as you saw the video or pictures yesterday of me up there on the scissor lift, like doing stuff, so, I learned a skill because I learned to, do roofing and this and that even at a young age. And then also I got to learn to wrestle. I didn't have to pay any money. So it was a win-win-win. And then, so that was kind of how it started my training. I was like 2 months of training, then I just got thrown into a match. So it was really weird stuff back then, but not probably the safest. 2 months. 2 months. So 2 months in, had my first match, and my actual first segment ever was against a one-man gang. So we did a little segment to where he was beating up the instructor, my teacher, and a bunch of the students came and ran in, and then he like started bouncing everybody around. So it was a bunch of little. Thinking about going back and watching those shows if they were still around would be hilarious. You're like just a bunch of like 13-year-olds running around like getting beat up by grown men. It'd be great. You couldn't do it today.
You couldn't do it today.
No,
though.
you couldn't do it today. But so yeah, that's kind of how the journey started, and then since then, we would get picked up Friday night or Friday after school, and from my trainer, and then he would pick us up. He'd take us to. So it's like normally like 2 shows a week. So we do like a Saturday or Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. And then he would drop us back off at home. So that was my childhood. From like 13 to 17 was.
I had that childhood, man. Like I told you before the show, I was saying that I wish I knew where to go and what to do and how to get in. Because like I've always been an athlete, was into track a little bit, into basketball, football, stuff like that. So, man, I wish I would have been able as a kid to like, hey, I need a couple of you guys. Come on,
Yeah. No, it's really weird. And again, I know it's not the norm of how to get into wrestling. It was just right place, right time, and I'm a very firm believer in just like going and asking. You know, just go do. And I mean, I could have just been like, oh, it's a cool night, and want to say like, oh, I wish I could do this, and then be too nervous to like go talk to somebody.
Do it.
Yeah, so I just went up to the trainer, you know, the coach there and the main event guy, and I was like, hey, how do you do this? And then he was like, hey, you got to go to wrestling school. I was like, well, where's the wrestling school? He's like, I own one. I was like, well, how do I get in? So, and again, you just got to take the initiative is the biggest thing.
So we're going to jump into how did we get to reality of wrestling with the five-time WCW champion.
So I was two of the guys that I mentioned before, Gabe Hollier and Alex Villarreal. They same kids that, you know, I saw wrestle first, and then we all started training together. There was another guy named Alex, or Chris, who was the pride at Reality Wrestling. And it's a weird thing, but so I was out hunting, like, you know, just skeet shooting or something, you know, like I was out middle of nowhere shooting guns, like being, you know, typical country boy for a minute.
Country boy, yeah.
Yeah. And I get a phone call, and luckily I just gotten a cell phone. So so I got a phone call, and it was one of the guys. He's like, hey, I just talked to Booker T, and we have a tryout tonight. And it's like a Tuesday. And I'm like, I don't know what this means. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what this means or what you're talking about. And he's like, I'm coming to pick you up. Where you at? So I like told him like where we were. He's like, I'll be there in like 20 minutes. So I didn't get any information. Just, hey, Booker T, the wrestler, is going to, you know, like, you know, we're going to go try out for his school.
Might as well go.
I was like, all right, come pick me up. Like, let's go. So they come and pick me up. They kind of fill me in that they were listening to the radio, and an ad came on, like Booker T is opening a wrestling school. It was on like one of the radio stations, you know, grand opening this Tuesday, whatever. So we went, and first day, you know, Book was, you know, he wasn't really accepting people at the time that had already had wrestling training. Because he wanted new, fresh people. He didn't want a lot of old timers. He didn't want a lot of people that like had their own stories and you know, that were just like coming in and doing it their way. So we came in. We were all like 18 at the time, and you know, we told him like, hey, we've been wrestling for like 5 years, this, that, there, and he kind of was like, okay. You know, we kind of tell we're like, oh, like we thought it'd be cool to be already wrestling, and he's like, well, let's get in the ring real quick and like, you know, so let me see where you're at. And then one by one, he wrestled. It was like 5 of us. He did like a little 2-minute match for like each person, which was really cool. It was like first day you meet Booker. He's like, all right, get in the ring real quick, and we'll see where you're at, which was nerve wracking. But and he was, this was like 2005, so he was like U.S. champion doing stuff with Benoit, you know, so that's like that time frame. Yeah. So he was intense, and so we do that, and goes well, and this goes to another, like, you never know where life's gonna take you, or like what weird things are going to happen, because we were taught early on that like once you trained and you were in wrestling school, you never went back to wrestling school, like, or you never had to pay again. Like it was the old timer kind of thing. It's like, hey, you went and did your training in the territory days, or then if you went to somebody had like a gym, you're like, hey, I'm a wrestler, I've been wrestling, I'm already doing shows, can I come roll around tonight? And it was just kind of a, yeah, come on in, whatever. And that's changed over the years. And so we went there. And then he sits in the office. He's like, hey, y'all did really good. A lot of little mistakes, but, you know, stuff we can work on. I'm going to accept you guys into the school. And then he starts talking about payments. You know, it's, hey, it's going to be, you know, 500 down. It's going to be this, that, the other. And everybody's all excited. And we get to the car. And my friends are broke. Like, we're all broke, you know. So, like, none of us had money.
The reality kicked in.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, guys, well, that was fun. You know, that was a good memory. What do you guys think, you know? And I'm just expecting everybody to be like, man, no, we're not doing that, this, that, the other. And everybody said like, oh, man, y'all ready to go on Monday? And I was like, oh, we're doing this? Like, we're going on Monday? Like, and honestly, this kind of goes to where, like, pick your friends wisely, because that day, if they would have been like, yeah, that's stupid, you know, we're not going to pay this and that, I never would have gone back. Like, that would have been the end of it. It would have been like, yeah, y'all right. Like, we're already trained, you know, like, But the fact that they, as soon as we got in the car, they were like, we ready? We're coming back on Monday? My mindset was, you know, like, again, at that time, I was like, yep, all right, I guess we're doing this. So it's really a thing of like pick the people you're going to be around very wisely, because my life would be completely different, you know.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how it started.
So one decision by your peers pretty much would have
Changed.
made or break you in this business.
It had changed everything. At this point, I moved here from Louisiana, and I still hated Texas. You know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And
Hey, man,
and I wanted to be back home with like my friends, that stuff. I more than likely would have moved back to Louisiana, you know, if this wouldn't have happened. And I look at my friends over there who I love dearly, but like it was a rough area. You know, it was a rough neighborhood, and they're all, you know, just now getting their lives back together, you know, at like 40.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know, so they went through a lot of issues. So, again, it's one of those, like, where would your life end up at? And it's just one decision. You know, it's one phone call earlier in the day, and at the end of it, them being excited when I was like, I would have gone along with the pack. Like, either way, if they'd have said, stupid, we shouldn't do it, I'd have been right there with them.
Yeah, that's mainly friends and
Yeah.
peer pressure.
Yeah, it is. And there's such a big thing, and I do this now with the students that I have, and, you know, all the things like, I believe in peer pressure, positive peer pressure. Yeah. Like there's a very big positive peer pressure. Yes. And everybody goes on about peer pressure being so, you know, don't follow the pack and all that good stuff, which is true. But if you surround yourself with good people and the right kind of people, they will pressure you into the right situations.
Yeah. No, that is true. Hey, look at the Big Propaganda Wrestling Podcast.
Boom. There you go. That's it.
This so just to backtrack from you real quick, this wasn't my brainchild. So, like, as you can see, me transitioning to this, it was kind of like, yeah, it really happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can understand the positive peer pressure.
Yeah.
You know, it's really a real thing.
It's true.
So we go through training with Book. How was that whole experience?
Very different than it is now.
Okay.
So at the time, it wasn't looked at as much as a business. That was one thing. You know, the original training, it was like, Book really didn't care what the student count was. You know, he wasn't trying to just make sure there were students in there. It was still very much like, Book was still with WWE, and at the time, you know, the guys there were getting, you know, WWE tryouts a lot and this and that. So, like, he wanted to make sure his students were ready.
Ready, yeah.
You know, and that was the end-all, be-all. It's like, if they're not going to be ready for, like, that next level, probably not going to keep you around. Yeah. So, a lot of people got kicked out.
That's his representation. I totally understand that.
A lot of people that started, or if they just came in for the first day and Book just didn't see whatever, if they didn't have the right vibe, whatever it was, he would just be like, hey, sorry, you know, this ain't going to be the place for you. So, it was a very small group, and it was a lot of hard work because it was, you know, I always tell people, like, Book was bad, but Charmel was the drill sergeant. Charmel was rough because every day we did our conditioning first. So we did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday was class days. And you couldn't miss a day. You know, if you missed so many days, like, you were out of the school. And it's like start off with like 500 squats, 500 sit-ups, 500 push-ups, all kind of stuff, like in sets. And Booker was like, you know, you do your set of like 50 or 100, you know, and then, you know, squats, and then get a couple minutes break, do it again. Charmel, as soon as you were done, because she came from like dancing background, James Brown.
Yeah. I got the story, so yeah.
And then she came from like OVW and this and that. So like she was still like fitness queen. Yeah. So you get done with a set, and like 10 seconds later, she blow the whistle, and you be on the next set.
That's it, yeah.
So she was rough, but she was also the mom of the group. So like, because Booker at the time, and I had to know this now looking back, was like that old WWE grind was something else. Yeah. And it was so rough and it was so cutthroat, and you just didn't have much compassion. Like, it was just, you know, work. Charmel tells a story all the time. She might have told it in the podcast, but about Bob Holly, where, and this kind of just shows like how tough the business was, and kind of shows you like where Booker's head was too, was Booker and Bob, I guess, were both sore, you know, like they had been wrestling each other. It's a house show. And she saw him, like, you know, like aching and like rubbing, you know, stuff or whatever. And so she went to the store to get Booker some, like, you know, some, that icy hot or something like that. She comes back and she gives it to Bob. And she's like, hey, I saw, you know, your back was hurt, and, you know, here you go. And she's like, he like started like tearing up. just because like somebody thought about him and like was caring about him, and then the wrestling business to like make sure he felt good, which at that time, like again, it's just that grind of that locker room. So Book would come in Tuesday or Wednesday with just like tunnel vision on, didn't like talk to anybody really, it was just hard, and like making guys wrestle. And again, it was just a different environment back then. And it changed over the years. Him having kids was the biggie, and getting out of that grind. And that's why, like when he went to TNA, stuff started,
changing.
Yeah, he was able to, kind of take his helmet, put it off to the side, and, So it's funny because we always used to, I'd always hear stories from everybody in WWE. Like, so we had guys there every weekend, Mysterio, Taker, everybody was at Book school at some point, and, it seemed like every couple of weeks there'd be some WWE guy there. And they were always telling us afterwards, like, how funny Booker is, and, like everybody loves him and this and that. And we're like, we've never seen this side of him in like 2 years. And I've never seen him like laughing with people at the school. But he was doing it for a reason. And now I get it. He was like, I wasn't there to be your friend. Yeah. He was like, as soon as like, he had a few people that were like guys from OVW that he was like kind of cool with. And like, we'd see him in the office, like joking and laughing. And then he'd come out and it's like, all right, squats,
G.I. Bro.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was a tough, I'd say like the first like 2 years was kind of like that. So it was rough training.
Okay. So let's dive into your first wrestling match outside of training. How was that? Just the whole mindset? Were you nervous? Everything that went on that day. Let's just go.
So from Booker's or from when I was like little?
No, from Booker's.
From Booker's.
Because I know it's different from when you were little than Booker's.
Yeah.
It's a lot more pressure.
It's probably a lot more pressure. So yeah, our my first match. So I was lucky that my first one ever was actually a little house show we did. It was a little house show, and luckily I was wrestling the guy Gabe that I started with. Yeah. So like the pressure was a little off. It was still there, of course, but it was a little more chill. The first time we did Pasadena Convention Center, that was where we were originally running the, back then PWA, but, reality wrestling shows. That was when the pressure was on because wrestling was hot in like 2001, 2002, 2003. So like all these little shows we would go to, it'd be packed, like, but it'd be outside or be some parking lot or, like the original company I was working with. Or, we'd be at some high school gym. No production value, no anything, just people. Then the first PWA or reality wrestling show I did, there's like, metal trusses, there's lighting, there's, like arena lighting, and we're in this like, and back then, the first show we did it there, like we had gotten to all WWE stuff, so like we had WWE turnbuckle pads and ring skirts and everything, so like you felt like you were at WWE, and then you've got, Booker, Taker came to the first show, watching. You got all these guys. So, like, that was where the pressure was.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And it's funny, though, just like doing WWE, getting to do matches in WWE and stuff like that, you're always nervous until you get in the ring. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you get in there, it kind of is one of those moments you're like, well, this is where I'm always doing. Like, it feels the same. No matter what building you're in,
yeah, of course.
No matter what it is, like, you're still in a little square. It's like, you're still in this square. You got a person, you got a referee, and all of a sudden you don't really notice how big the people are around you or anything. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I know this. But the whole time in the back, the time walking to the ring,
it's just a nightmare.
You're in a different headspace because, like, again, you're seeing the visual, you're seeing the people, you're seeing all the stuff. Then once you get in the ring, it's just like you feel home. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing.
I can understand that. I definitely can understand that. So, speaking of the WWE and everything like that, you actually done a few events for WWE, am I correct?
Yeah. I always tell anybody that asks, or, I'm giving the talk to new students and all that stuff, I got to do more than I ever should have. Like, that's just one of those, like, I got to do more than I ever should have gotten to do in this business. Because, again, I'm 6'2" at the time, like, 150 pounds, 160 pounds, skinny kid, long hair at the time, like not a WWE wrestler, and not what people would, now being the size I am, like I could be out there in the indies or I could even get more of a job.
Yeah.
You got to remember this is 2005 to 2006.
It was brutal.
Everybody back there was,
It was brutal.
huge.
Yeah.
Even the lower mid card guys are thick and big. So, but my first, I'd say my first 6 months at Booker's, I had a WWE tryout. He picked WWE was coming to Houston, and they were going to run a tryout from his school, and then we did the Toyota Center afterwards that night for a house show, and we didn't realize what we were training for. Because, of course, he didn't tell us. But the first, 6 months, 8 months there, we got to the point where he was like, everybody's going to be able to do 1,000 squats. Everybody's going to be able to do it. And we're like, oh, God. But we're like, okay. And we just keep pushing and pushing. He's pushing us and pushing us. And then, about 3 months out or before the tryout, he lets everybody know. He's like, WWE's going to be coming to town. There's going to be a tryout coming up. I'm going to pick a handful of guys. It's probably 10 of us at that point at the school. So then it became okay, now we know why we've been ramping up how many squats we're doing, how many push-ups we're doing, why we're running so much. Because he was like, nobody's going to be embarrassed. He's like, you're going to be ready for whatever they throw at you. And the tryout was at our old school. And then, again, we went to Toyota Center afterwards. But there was no AC at the old school, the original building we had. It was the middle of summer. So we got so prepared for this tryout. And then the trainers got there, coaches got there, and they were like, man, it's too hot to do this conditioning. We're just going to do matches and stuff. So we've been training like crazy in the heat to get ready for these 1,000 squats, and then we didn't even do them. They were just like, yeah, we'll do a little bit of conditioning, and then it was the easiest tryout. But, yeah, I got to do that. Got a lot of really good feedback, and then went and did Toyota Center that night, and then, for a house show. So that was kind of my first thing there. And I got the best advice ever that night and learned one of the cardinal rules and everything. And I always give him a lot of praise, and anytime I mention anything, because I've heard he had an attitude, or somebody had some interaction with someone oh, they've got an attitude, or oh, they've got this and that. And it was when the pit bulls are going, Kid Cash.
Oh, yeah,
So Kid Cash backstage. So we had the tryout. I'm thirsty as all hell. I'm dying because, we still had a long day. Then we had a thing. So house shows, there aren't all the catering and all that stuff. There's buckets for, drinks, things like that. So Kid Cash's music's about to go out. And I'm going grab a Gatorade out of the cooler. And it's a little later in the show now. And there's one Gatorade left. And I go and grab it. And he's about to walk to the curtain. He's like, hey, what's your name? I was like, Kevin. He's like, I'd put that back. And he was like, I don't want anybody to be just coming out of their match. They had to wrestle tonight. You didn't.
Yeah.
And they were like, and you're sitting there just drinking a Gatorade, and they're looking for and all they got is water left. He was like, and I was like, oh, thank you. And then he goes out the curtain. And I'm like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, he didn't.
That was just him just being a good guy, just trying to help out.
Yeah.
So I always give him a lot of props.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to a commercial break right now. Y'all know what time it is, man. Don't watch me. Watch Dynamite TV. You're tuned in with the Big Propaganda Wrestling Podcast. I knew you was here, slacker.
Working traffic, man. I already know. I was in it too. I started to bring my stuff here, but I know y'all already started.
Yeah, man. You good. We just join in.
Okay. So what? Because I got questions, but I don't want to repeat the same questions.
What you got?
I wanted to ask, how was the transition from wrestling to booking?
We ain't got that.
Okay.
We ain't got to that yet. So you good on that.
Okay.
We basically going on his WWE.
Hey, what's up, man?
His WWE stint right now, and probably transition to TNA, and then after the TNA thing, then we go to
put the chairs where the catering area is.
Because that's pretty much it.
Okay. So y'all ran through the road stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the chairs from under the ring can go in the hallway for now. Yeah, any chairs that are on the ground, because they're going to mop tomorrow morning. So any of the chairs that are on the floor around the arena area, you don't have to worry about the ones on the risers, but the ones on the floor, let's go ahead and let's put them by the catering. Yes. Yep.
So let's see what we led to.
Put them in the hallway and put all of the chairs everywhere from the building that are in the arena area over by catering.
Busiest man in the world, I tell you.
Yeah. The ones that are on the floor. Yeah, by catering. All right, man. Appreciate it. Great timing on that call.
I know.
Had to get the water. I don't want to jinx myself.
When you were
Choked
caught
up over
choking.
here.
Kev ain't made you cry yet, man.
Yeah, not yet. Give me time. Give me time. I'll tell some sad stories.
You want to bring us back in?
I'll bring it back in.
I bet.
Let me know when y'all ready. All right, man. We are back from commercial break, man. Come on, man. Y'all know I had to show up, man. The wrestling meteorologist, man. I'm bringing you that wrestling Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. Of course, Saturday.
What?
And we got to double back on Sunday.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I'm Mikey Man, so the facts. Apologies for being late, but working traffic, but I'm in the building, man.
Yeah, man. I'm looking around. I'm in the whole building, man. You, Corey, none of y'all around, man.
Hey,
What's going on, man?
Life be lifing, but hey,
Life be
man,
lifing.
Kev, man.
How you doing, brother?
How you doing, man?
Great.
Hey, man, glad to have you on the show.
Life is good.
Oh, man. No complaints here. No complaints here. Talking about WWE, right?
Yeah.
Let's continue. Let's make magic here, fellas. WWE, man.
All right. So another thing I wanted to get into, your stint in TNA. How was that? Because like you said, that was pretty much Booker's kind of mellowing down from the drill sergeant version of himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of when, like I said, Booker calmed down a little because the schedule was different. All of a sudden it's not, every day of the week, being out there 4 days a week. Now he's going in there once a week. Do it. Not that much pressure and stuff. We had to go to a bunch of the TNA shows back then too. Get to work some dark matches, this and that. We had a really fun one here with when Samoa Joe, I forgot what event it was, Victory Road, I think, when WWE came to town, or when TNA came to town back then. So it was fun. TNA back then, it was a mess. It kind of was. It was just the organization. Now it's amazing. But, we'd always heard about, and Booker, of course, would mention, just nothing's organized, this, that, the other. And then we had to see it firsthand for the first time we did the Victory Road show, and they needed some extras. It was going to be Booker students are going to be part of the match. So they've got us, lined up, and there's, I think, 5 of us. And they're we're front row. And Samoa Joe's going to, hit everybody, and do a little thing.
Okay, yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and they're like, hey, we got a problem. Like, what's up? And everybody, producers come over, all that stuff. They're like, there's 5 of them, and we only have 3 chairs here. And we're like, and they go back and forth, trying to figure out stuff, this, that, the other. And then one of the guys was like, finally one of the boys, I think it was Abel, Andrew Jackson, was like, well, what if you put 2 more chairs down? Front row. And this one was like, that could work. And it was like, why did we just go through 10 minutes of agents running around and doing stuff? But it was just weird stuff like that where it was just the chaos. But I still say that was some of the best wrestling. TNA was awesome. If you watch the pay-per-views,
Oh, yeah.
get the DVDs, it was probably some of the best wrestling at that point. But the storylines, the stuff, it was a mess.
So I do want to jump into, which is a good question that Mike had. How was that transition from wrestler to producer?
That was, we talked a little bit off camera earlier, but that was a really hard time because I thought it was going to be harder than it was, or I thought it was going to be a lot I thought I was going to really miss wrestling, because, we talked earlier with, but it was, I started when I was 13. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this, every weekend. It's all I've done and all I really know.
Oh.
And then, I was wrestling and doing the production for 2 years or 3 years, something like that. I was doing a lot of work, doing a lot of behind the scenes work, still doing my matches, still doing everything. And there was one show in particular where I was running around putting together everybody's matches, working on camera guys, doing this, doing that. And then show had started and I hadn't even gotten dressed yet. You know, I hadn't gone over my match at all, and we're just like going, and then finally afterwards, and Book is watching. You know, he could just come. He's always seeing what's going on. He sees everything. It's crazy, and it's infuriating. But I'm like, he just sees everything, and I don't know how he does it. But like something happened, he's like, yeah, I heard this happen. Or I saw this happen the other day. I'm like, where? I didn't even know you were around. You know, like he just knows everything. So, and he pulls me aside, and he's like, you know, the next day, he's like, hey, we're gonna have to make a decision. Like, you know, you can't do both. You know, he's like, you can either wrestle, which would be awesome, do it, you know, whatever makes you happy. He's like, or we can really focus on like this side of things. He's like, but I just don't see a way of doing both. And we had a long talk. We probably talked about 2 hours that day, just about everything. Mm-hmm. And I really, as you can tell, guys, it never really stops. Sorry. But you know, we started talking, and like one of the things about this is you have such a small window in wrestling, you know, to like make it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Book was like, man, you could, you know, hey, do this till you're like 30, 35. Maybe you can do it. You know, maybe you can. Maybe it won't happen. He's like, you can do production and be in this side of the business and all that stuff in like your 60s. You know, like this is a long term, mm-hmm. you know. And then I got offered, you know, some work in WWE, you know, that around that same time of like, you know, do you want to do some production stuff or this or that? And really it wasn't really where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do, because my goal was like to build up reality wrestling. Yeah. But so to answer your question, like it was a hard transition, but I really thought mentally I'd be miserable because I was like, I'm not wrestling.
Yeah.
But I also was fortunate enough, like I had the school, so I'm still wrestling all the time. And I get a better high now, like when somebody does something good, like when you help somebody, you put it together, and then all of a sudden they do it, and they come through the locker room, like I didn't have all the stress of having to do the match, mm-hmm. you know, and then like I get the reward and the satisfaction of doing it. So, but it was hard though. It was definitely a hard one.
I also want to ask this. So now you're into the, you know, backstage role, running everything and stuff like that. How does it make you feel when you see the guys and girls come to the school and they flourish to the next level, knowing that they came from reality of wrestling?
Man, so there's two kind of parts to that. First off, nothing makes you feel better than, you know, somebody getting to that next level. You know, and especially when you know, like I'll never take credit for anybody's success. Like it's a thing. You know, I had just recently, over the last like 2 or 3 years, really pushed Booker to like start mentioning people that came to the school, because for so long he just had the mindset. He's like, yeah, they probably could have done it on their own, or they got themselves there. Like, you know, we just gave them the tools. This, that, the other. He's like, well, he never mentioned like, hey, then we trained this guy, or hey, this guy came through here, except for the last few years. And it was because we're like, hey, sponsorship wise and money wise, it's like we got to be able to mention these things.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I kind of have a lot of that ingrained in me, that it's like, all right, they did that.
Yeah.
But getting the recognition from them is always so nice. Like getting those phone calls, like after a big show, you know, somebody being like, hey, you know, from, you know, one of the signed talents, like, hey, man, I did this thing this weekend that we talked about, or this or that, or hey, just want to shoot you a message and say thanks. You know, it's like those little things like mean the world. Mm-hmm. And knowing that you know, help change somebody's life in a, you know, in a small way, you know, with the stuff that you did. It's really satisfying. But what I started to say on the other side of that is, I can honestly say I get almost just as much out of somebody that doesn't make it, but has changed their life, you know, like so much, because there's so many people. You know, there's only, I'd say, I think kind of like 20 people that have like really been, because of the school at some point, gotten signed, you know, somewhere. I think it's kind of the last number we came up with. But I could name like 50 that their lives are completely different because of X, Y, and Z, you know, that you were like a part in doing. There's a kid right now, it's one that was blowing my phone up, but his name is Drew Gaffney. And and it's one of those things of like, will Drew ever make it to that next level? Who knows? You know, like it's such, but again, like we tell everybody, we're never going to sell people dreams. I'm never going to tell them like, man, if you just work hard, do this, you're going to get to WWE. I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
Because like, and anybody that does tell you that is lying to you, because you have some of the best wrestlers in the world. You have people that are dating one of the best wrestlers in the world or something, and like in Florida doing thing, and they've got everybody in there like vouching for them, and they still don't have a job.
Yeah.
So if you can tell somebody like, man, you just got to work hard, and like if you go to this school or you do this, like you're gonna make it to that next level. It's not really true, but you know you can put yourself in a better position to make it.
Yes.
But again, even the absolute top percentage of pro wrestlers, there's a good chance you're not going to get to WWE. You just look at numbers. But, so I mean, again, can Drew make it? Absolutely. Anybody can. Like, they put enough work. But seeing somebody that went from like 300-something pounds and legit, we spent the first 3 months just working on front rolls because he just couldn't make himself go head over feet, like, and he was out of shape, to now, like, having biceps and triceps, and like he can run like 4 miles now, and he can do everything, like seeing the change that it made in his life and the social life. When we first talked the first time, he couldn't look me in the eyes. Like he's very skittish and and now seeing him like running around the building, talking to people, doing stuff like that gives me just as much joy as Roxy calling me after a show and being like, hey, this is what I just did tonight. So there is that, there's levels to it, but that makes my day.
Okay, I want to double down on that. So again, there's been a lot of talent. I know about the CW deal, which is awesome, and then I know I want to call it like a merger or something of that nature with different companies coming together. Yeah. You're seeing talent, from like Memphis or in different places like that come over. That's pretty awesome in my eyes. I was there, saw a lot of the matches. More eyes on the product. I think I mentioned last show about how Reality of Wrestling had like almost 800,000 followers. Yeah. So with that being said, all these different eyes on the product, and again, you being behind the scenes and you seeing all that, is there any pressure?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's always been pressure, because, and again, I put it on myself. I'm very much a goal-oriented person. That goes back to when we talked earlier about like martial arts and that kind of stuff. Like I always saw my original school had like all these belts on the wall and that kind of stuff, and it was like to show you your goals, like this is what you're trying to get to. And then there was on the black belt a saying, and again, you don't really understand it or like grasp it when you're a kid, but it said like this is the beginning, and it was like at the black belt, and every kid that's like the finish line. And then when we did our we had this crazy black belt test back then, and again, stuff you couldn't do now. But our second test, we were out in the woods in these doing this hiking stuff and like wilderness, like survivalist stuff and all. It was weird, but it was fun. It was character building. And it was like teamwork. You had to do a bunch of stuff as a team, and part of it was like having to find the belts, and like in order. And it was like we went to this place that had a big waterfall. It was really cool, but and you're finding the white belt and the blue belt, but it's all the order, and then everybody's searching for a black belt. At the end, it was the last one. So everybody's searching for it, can't find it. And then we find a white belt. And it was like, because again, it's just the beginning. Like you're now starting over. And that's kind of how I've always treated things. Like I have my goals, but like as soon as you reach one, I'm like, what's the next one? Where are we going next? What's the next thing we can do? How much bigger can we make this? So I put a lot of pressure on myself, which is why I don't sleep. Everybody jokes about it. But, and there's always the next level of things. And like with the stuff with Memphis, a lot of stuff just comes about. And then, we're doing stuff, some of the guys from Nick Patrick's company is coming down next show. And, we got a bunch of the guys from Florida coming down, like Atta and all those guys, coming down. And a lot of that came from watching the Texas indie scene. And we were just watching so many, Booker one day was, against the buck's going to stop with him. What's the decision? And, we're seeing so many people in Houston, and not just in Houston, but like Houston, San Antonio, Austin, just the same guys wrestling the same people in front of the same crowds, and just over and over and over, not really feeling like they're progressing. And, so that's when Booker started making some phone calls and was, talked to Nick Patrick, like, hey, how can I get some guys over there? Like, we'll send some guys over here. Because it's like, y'all got to branch outside y'all's little bubble. Because wrestling really has like a handful of bubbles. You have like a Texas bubble, like a Florida bubble, New York, New Jersey,
Kind of like college football.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And you can get stuck in your bubble, even though you're traveling and wrestling a lot. You can get stuck in your bubble, and it's happened to us many times. Reality wrestling people. So like seeing it and being like, all right, change it up. So that's kind of where the talent exchange with people kind of came from, and it's been great. I've really loved that thing. But again, it's going to add more work. It's going to be networking more people, doing stuff like that. But it's paid off. We've gotten a lot of good talent coming in, a lot of talent going out, doing shows. So it's been fun.
Y'all had a lot of NXT talent coming in as well.
Yeah.
How would that be with your stars and being with their stars, but their stars having the more of a WWE type platform to come down and give your talent?
Yeah, it's we just signed, or not signed, I don't say that. We just worked out a deal. Trying to use my words wisely, don't get any up. We just worked out a deal to where also like the level up talent is going to be coming down to our breakout shows, which was our student shows originally, and they kind of grew and grew, and now it's kind of its own thing. But Shawn Michaels saw some social media stuff and was like, hey, you're running Sunday shows now. And then it was like, yeah, that's more of our students. He was like, well, what if we send some of our students, kind of stuff. That way, they can get some reps, and our guys can work with them, and vice versa, because there are a lot of newer students. But also, it's such a help for us because wrestling isn't about your skill, like always. Like a lot of it isn't. You got to be good. You got to have good personality. You got to do your stuff. But it's the right place, right time. Who do you know? It's just like any business.
Correct.
And the NXT talent is such in a bubble itself because, in the indies, you get to meet everybody, mingle with people, network, that kind of stuff. But you don't really get to ever network with the WWE talent or the NXT talent. And you don't get to work with them, and get in the ring with them or even just get to know them personally. So with this, it really has helped us because, like, our talent now gets to know more and more and more of the NXT talent. So when they do get that opportunity to go down there for a tryout, to go down there for a weekend to, do whatever, half the roster knows them, and then they come in like, oh, man, such and such here. Oh, no, they're good people, which is normally all you need. Like at a certain level, you just need that. You need people not to, you don't need anybody just to say like, I vouch for that person. But if enough people, your name gets brought up and they're like, oh, yeah, I like that guy. He's a good person, or, oh, man, I worked her one time. She's really good. You hear that enough time from like a coach standpoint and you're like, oh, maybe there's something to this. And that's such a big thing of the boys and the girls, the wrestlers really do control a locker room to an extent. Of course, the higher-ups, make the big decisions. But the crew kind of decides, like, a lot of times, who's coming in and out.
Yeah.
Because if Ryan Davidson comes up to me and says, hey, I got this guy, really like him. I just worked with him last weekend. Great person, great attitude. Then I'll be like, okay, like, let him know. Let him come on down. Let's see him down. He could send me 1,000 emails. And I tell my wrestlers this all the time as well, the guys is you can email somebody and, like, you probably won't get a response. You can be the greatest wrestler in the world because so much of what you're looking for is attitude. And are you going to be good in my locker room?
Yeah.
Are you going to bring drama to the locker room? Are you not going to want to do this? Or you're not going to want to do that? So having those people vouch for you, it's like, no, he's good people. Like, that's how you do it. And with the NXT, question, that's such a thing is our wrestlers are getting to make relationships with the NXT talent. Just as much as they're getting out of actually being in the ring with them, just to learn some extra knowledge. Because the truth is, there's so many great wrestlers on the indies now that you can be in the ring with a great wrestler every weekend. So it's not that you need the NXT talent or the WWE talent or TNA talent to come in to learn how to wrestle better. Again, that helps, but it's making those relationships that I've noticed being the most valuable. I'll use Rudy Garza as an example. Rudy got hurt a few months back shooting a commercial, and, he just wrestled Axiom, and he was, talking to Charlie Dempsey and all those guys. And after the injury, they all reach out, Big Body Javi, all those guys, like now they're reaching out to him and be like, hey, man, don't let this get you down, heal up quick, this and that. And that gave him a relationship with these people, which maybe it won't, maybe it will, but down the line, if they're ever in a locker room together, I guarantee you Axiom's going to be like, oh, man, I wrestled this guy once, man, he's good people.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest asset I'm seeing so far with using the NXT talent.
Okay. I guess before we get out of here, I wanted to ask this. I've been thinking about this just heard about this, man. You've been putting it together. I'll give you that. So with you being one of the main guys behind the machine that we all know to love, reality of wrestling, what is your favorite match ever in reality of wrestling history?
Oh,
That's a good
that's a good question.
man.
Hey, man, the wrestling meteorologist got to do something, man.
That's a good question. I'm gonna get so much heat.
You talking about book pressure? You just
Yeah. I'm gonna get so much heat because whoever I answer, there's a couple that come to mind. So I won't give you one, but I'll give you like two or three. There was a match between Will Allday and a wrestler named Brendan Steen.
Okay.
They had a street fight, and both those guys, for never really working together, all that stuff, just had great chemistry. Like they just worked so well together. That match is definitely on my like top three, of all time. And there was a Will Allday. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna name all day matches. And a lot of it for me is on moments. Like, of course, the match, whatever. Or like, what did it mean for the show? What did it mean for the company? And there was a match between Gino Medina and Aiden Cristiano, and the reason it means so much to me, it was a big pivotal point in the show and the company, in Gino's career, kind of creating that person. But also, it was one of those times I had to learn that I'm wrong. Like I can be, and everybody jokes that like it pisses us off so much that Booker's always right. Because even when we're like adamant that like, no, he's wrong on this one, whatever. I can honestly say in all the years I've known him, 9 times out of 10, and maybe 10 out of 10, which just hurts me to the soul, he's right. And fans have learned that now, and it's pissed them off probably too, that like he'd make a hot take or something, or somebody'd say something about somebody, and everybody's like, no. And then like 3 months later, it ended up being right. And then so like it's just all these like things. But Gino and Aiden Cristiano had this like great feud going. We like built it for almost a year. It was culminating in a cage match. Gino was going to have his big giant victory. It was going to be this big moment. And then he booked the last second, decided Gino's going to win. Or Aiden Cristiano's going to keep the belt. So, like, Gino wasn't going to get his big moment. And we're like, no, like, it's a cage match. Like, we built to this. Like, this is the whole point. Like, a year build. And he was like, I just don't feel it. And he's like, we'll do it later. I got this a good idea. And me and Brad Gilmore were both in the office. And, like, afterwards, we were like, he's wrong. Like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Whatever. They did the match, got more heat, whatever. And then, like 2 months later, we had our first Lucha Extrema match, which is like our, hardcore, anything goes match. And Gino and Aiden went out there and had this killer match. It was just amazing. And, Gino at that point, like, he always wore a shirt at that time, back then. Like, they fought the crowd. They came in, and then eventually, like, he rips his shirt open. And you can see, like, he's not in bad shape. Like, he's in good shape. Yeah. And then everybody's like just chanting and yelling and holy, chants and all that stuff. And it was this moment. And I was like, okay, like, this is awesome. And then Innie promised Braxton a match. So she's amazing. So that'd be my 3 right there.
You and Brad both.
Yeah. Can't
Brad
help
said
it.
that when he came in here too.
We see that, man.
Yeah.
So before we get up out of here, I want to talk about the big event this weekend, Summer of Champions.
Yes.
The match card is incredible if you haven't seen it. I just want to get kind of your takes on some of the matches. We'll go with we'll start with the Will Allday and Terrell Tempo match.
Yeah. So anybody that knows, anybody that can tell, like, I'm a big Will Allday fan. Mm-hmm. Will's one of my guys. With that said, Tempo's probably one of my best friends, outside of this business. So, like, I talk to Tempo probably every day at some point. So like that's a hard one. And then seeing Tempo, for the first time, taking a different side, like kind of getting a little grittier, a little meaner, which is what I've been advocating for the longest. Because Tempo forever has been like clean cut, happy.
Yep.
We always mess with him, make some noise. Like
You
he's
beat me
just
to it. I was about to say it.
yeah. So seeing him kind of try and change up a little bit. Sometimes you just need that change and see where you can go with it. So that one's probably, not probably, it's gonna steal the show at some point. So
Okay. We're gonna go with the main one and Jay Alexander.
that one's gonna be tough because like Zilla's got so much raw potential and so much athleticism and so much strength. And Jay is just a powerhouse. So like you're gonna see two guys just be like, I have a feeling to beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, I have a feeling
Like
that too.
it's just gonna be like I don't think it's gonna be a pretty match. I think it's gonna be two guys hitting each other really hard because they're both very competitive too. Like Jay sometimes too much because like he came from like a competitive world, so like he's gonna try and outdo anybody he's in there with, which can be great.
Yeah.
But it's gonna end up being get hit hard. One guy gets hit harder. One guy gets hit harder until eventually they're just knocking the crap out of each other, which can be fun to watch.
Okay. The Empire State Champion versus Ryan Davison. That's the one in the steel case. That's
Yeah.
the one.
And that's gonna open the show. So like I know. So they're
Hey, we
open.
got our exclusive.
Yeah, you got your exclusive. That's gonna be opening the show. So like everybody after that, the bar is gonna be set so high.
Man, that's tough.
So like, and done on purpose. Like we want, again, Booker is a pressure person. He likes putting pressure on people, like to get the most out of them. So like, he's not gonna baby you. He's not gonna like, all right, well let's not put this person on first or second because then it's gonna be harder for that person. Like it's like, no, let's put the best thing on first for a big show, and then make people top it. And that's what that match is gonna be. It's gonna set the bar potentially too high
For the rest of the night.
for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Danny that long before, he came in here, and seeing how fast he's progressed. Because I thought he'd been wrestling for like 10 years.
He is.
Then you find out he's like 5 years in. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, that's insane to me.
He's a heat magnet.
He is. And that's him. Like, that's what's great about him. Like, that's him. So it's just turned up, But no, he's phenomenal. And Ryan's the man. Like, there is no other word to describe Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. Well, we love Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Final boss.
Ed Stone and Gaspar Hernandez with the special guest referee, Abel Jackson.
Yes.
Ed
Andrew
Stone.
Jackson.
We were just talking about this the last time we had Ed Stone on the show. He don't have too good of a record with special guest referees.
He doesn't. So
At that Summer of Champions, a referee.
Referee Nick Patrick, man, got him. It's crazy to me, but Gaspar is such just a prodigy. There's, again, he's an older guy,
Yeah.
but like he came into this. It's very rare to see somebody like 2 or 3 years in the business, like as good as he is.
Yeah.
And that all just goes to his hard work. He is still, most people that are, especially, I told him his first day he came in, the size that he's at, I was like, you're going to get a lot of opportunities early. You're probably going to get a lot of heat because people are like, why is he getting this?
Yeah.
So the way to counter that, because he's, is like, you have to be here every day.
Yeah.
You have to work every day. You have to, you can't stop when you start getting matches. You got to, continue. So he's there 3-4 days a week. He lives in Beaumont now, so he's driving, for work, like, 2 hours, twice a week, this, that, the other. Even when he doesn't need to anymore. Like, he's at the point where he doesn't need to train 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But that's his work ethic.
It's the commitment.
And
I was just about to say that, man.
to me, that makes a champion. So I'm putting my money on Gaspar, which is hard to say because Stone's the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm putting my money on Gaspar.
All right. Well, we got that.
I want to go. And is this a first women's triple threat match for the championship?
Yeah.
First the women's closing the show?
First time they're going to main event the show.
Wow.
First time they're going to close the show. And they just haven't earned it. Like we really sat down for a long time, me and Booker did, of like who should close the show, the order of the card. And really it kept coming back to like Gigi's just hitting on all cylinders. You know, trip to Japan, she just became another level. Promise, I never want to jinx her, but like she's the next one. You know, of all the people to like make that next trip.
Yeah.
You know, like she's the person. And then Mia, seeing her come from like when she first won the belt, still feeling like a little girl, you know, kind of teenage, you know, like, is she ready? Is she not ready? Having that championship and making her be the person really made her step up. And now we're doing like the breakout shows where she's got we have a student in there and she's guiding the match and like is the general of the match. So seeing that, and it's gonna be a lot of pressure on them, you know, and they know it. We've talked a lot. They're gonna have to like really step up to get to that level of, hey, everything we've seen tonight, y'all have got to top it. So
I want to say one thing about that match. The pressure might not be there too much for Promise and Gigi because for them, they've been in a feud for like almost 2 or 3 years now.
Yep.
So it would really be on the young champion.
Yes.
And how she thrives and flourishes through this situation.
And I think everybody, you know, she has something to prove because I don't think I'm speaking out of turn on this, that I don't think many people are betting on her, you know, because again, like, I mean, all the comments and sections, all the stuff that we get is always, when's Promise and getting back to win her belt back? When's Gigi coming back to win her belt back? All that kind of stuff, you know, but she's used that, you know, she's used that. And at the same time, if she does lose it, because she's got 2 athletes in there like Gigi and Promise, like she still wins, you know, because she's in there to hang, and as long as she has that. So it's going to be great for anybody, but but I can never bet against Promise.
My fantasy booking side of me is saying that I think Mia's going to come out. And the reason why that is I posted it maybe a week or 2 ago. I said the issue is, can Promise and Gigi focus on the task at hand and not try to beat the hell out of each other?
Yeah. I think Mia is much more keep the championship driven than, you know, feuding with somebody else, because she really doesn't have a dog in the fight of those two want to kill each other. And every time they get in the ring, just like the last ladder match, Gigi took herself out because she had to spear Promise off at the top of the ladder. You know, so they're always, you know, having that rivalry, and it's going to go on forever. I really do believe if Promise gets signed somewhere, eventually Gigi's going to be right there behind her, and we're going to have that Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Like, it's just those people. So.
Okay. Well, you said you got Mia, you got Promise.
Who you got?
Come on, Gigi, I got you back.
Come on, there you go.
I got you back, man. I got you back.
We got to show Canada some love.
So I just wanted to get on the main matches on. There's tons of more matches on that card. I need y'all to go. If you don't do it this weekend, we will always have it on the CW network at some point, sometime.
Yes.
Anything else?
Starting up. I think this coming up Summer Champions card will be our first full taping. That'll be Saturdays at 10 p.m. on. So we're moving our time block to Saturdays at 10 p.m. So it'll be a block with Glow.
Okay.
So it'll be Glow. No, is it Glow or Wow? Wow. Yeah. So it'll be Wow, or it'll be Rowdy Wrestling at 10, then Glow at 11. Make a 2-hour block of wrestling on CW Network. So we're moving on up.
Yeah, moving on up, man. Well, wow.
Can I say one last thing real quick? This is just for all the wrestlers and everybody out there, because it's going to be in the comments, so I got to say it. Y'all just don't realize how big of a deal this is that I'm wearing shoes right now. I got shoes on. I'm wearing jeans.
You know what?
Brother,
You
never.
always have
Flip-flops or barefoot. My whole life, like, that's every day. And, like, I've either got flip-flops on. Show days, I'll sometimes wear shoes. But at the gym, every day, all day, I'm just running around barefoot. So I get the best job in the world. I get to wear shorts, barefoot, normally cut-off sleeve shirt, and that's like my whole work day. So, yeah, it's a dream job. But I just want to say, because it was going to get put in the comments from just the people at the school, and be like, oh, my God, he's wearing shoes. So I'm saying it now. Put shoes on for you guys. All right. I'll let y'all finish up.
Okay. Well, thank you again.
Man, thank you again. It was hard we finally got him out the dungeon, y'all.
Yeah. It's been a minute. We've been wanting this for a long time.
For a long time, man.
thank you again. We appreciate the opportunity. I want to thank you for future opportunities.
Yeah.
Appreciate everything that you and Reality of Wrestling have done for us, and we just want to continue to flourish and
Build this
build
this chemistry partnership.
Love it.
That
Thank you,
being
guys.
said, thank you for coming on the show. Yeah.
Now being said, man, let's clap it up one more time for the Raging Cajun.
Hey.
Okay.
All right, man. Don't watch me. Watch Dynamite TV.
Hey, man. The wrestling meteorologist, Mikey Fax.
And you're down with the Big Propaganda Wrestling Podcast. You're down
For life.